So the section 2 is about the communists and the new trends of developing countries. And here we are seeing the 4 waves of industrial transfer. According to a Japanese scholar, and he has a very famous theory. It's about the flying geese paradigm. So that means at a certain level of development, advanced economies have to relocate their low productivity industries to developing countries, which allows the latter to embark on their own industrial upgrading process, gradually and increasingly upgrade their comparative advantage from labor-intensive to more capital and knowledge-intensive industries and achieve sustained economic growth. And for example, after the Second World War, Japan was very lucky to get the industry relocations from US and Germany and quickly created the jobs. The middle class in Japan grew up and accumulated the capital. However, due to the increasement of salary in Japan, the labor-intensive sectors have to be relocated again to other countries with low labor cost. At 1960s, the 4 Asian tigers were very lucky to receive the labor-intensive sector relocation from Japan and quickly accumulated the jobs and capital. And then in 1980s, the same thing happened. With the raise of the labor cost in 4 Asian tigers, China became the receiver country. So as people say always, history always repeats itself. From 10 years ago, due to the same reason, the labor-intensive sector started to relocate to surrounding countries, such as Southeast Asian countries and even African countries. And here the table just lists the scale of relocating manufacturing jobs. We can see that from 1960s, there was around 10 million jobs relocated from Japan to the Asian 4 tigers, such as to South Korea, Singapore, China's Taiwan, and China's Hong Kong. And for the year 1980s, there are totally 5 million jobs relocated from 4 Asian tigers to China. But today, for China, according to our Statistics Bureau, there will be 85 million direct jobs in the labor-intensive sector. So you can imagine for developing countries, if you can even attract 10% from this 85 million, you can create so many jobs. And for small developing countries, the economy will enter to the active cycle of economic growth. So it is the very important window of opportunities for other developing countries. And now the figure shows for all the regions in China, both coastal and inland China, the salaries increase a lot from 10 years ago. So as wages are rising, China's labor-intensive manufacturing is losing comparative advantage. And we can see also from the international comparison point of view, the rising wages in China. So here, the 2 tables just compared the salaries from the year 2005 to 2016. And let's focus first on the table of the left. That is the wages per hour across all sectors. So we will see that the wages per hour across all sectors in China increased from $1.5 to $3.3. And now the table on the right just showed the wages change in manufacturing sector. The salaries change even higher from $1.2 to $3.6. And these slides just show the international comparison among China, Thailand, Philippines, Mexico, Indonesia, and India. So we can see now for China, the hourly wage is much higher in China than in some other developing countries. And there is another international comparison. So according to the chart, from both absolute value and incremental value, China's manufacturing labor cost is much higher than that of Mexico and Vietnam. Therefore, today, China is losing the comparative advantage in labor-intensive manufacturing sector from international comparison. And here is a real example. Which country is the biggest t-shirt exporter today? From the figure, we can see that China, from the 1990s until 2013, was always the biggest t-shirt exporter. However, from the year 2013, Bangladesh already surpassed China and became the biggest t-shirt exporter. The reason behind is not because of the global demand for t-shirt increase. It's just because in China, the labor-intensive sector, the t-shirt production sector, already lost their comparative advantage. And there's no competitiveness in China. It's just become very lower. So here is a triangle among the international markets, China's manufacturing sector, and also the developing countries. We will see that, for example, the China manufacturing capacity, due to the rise of labor costs, they really want to move to other developing countries. And for the developing countries, they are very rich in cheap labor and raw materials. So ideally, there will be a very perfect place to attract Chinese investment. And for the international market or the buyers, they always look for the cheapest place and the regions to make their orders. So ideally, they will create a triangle cooperation model. However, in the reality, the international buyers have no confidence in emerging countries' ability to deliver qualified goods on time. So we can imagine 10 years ago, nobody seen their made in Ethiopia product or made in Uganda product in the United States market or European market. So the international buyers, they do not have confidence in the new developing countries. And for the Chinese investors, due to different kinds of risk, the Chinese investors are hesitant to venture into other developing countries. And also for some developing countries, they suffer from the poor infrastructure and governance. So all this deteriorating the private investment. So now we will ask how to break down the bottleneck and transform from the trilemma to triangle cooperation. So the way is the creation of special economic zone, which is also one of the successful factors behind China's own economic miracle. I will introduce more in details in the next session. Thank you.